We interact with artificial intelligence every single day. We type our little questions into blank boxes. We read the generated answers.
Yeah, we do.
And yet we are quietly leaving, 90% of its capability completely untouched.
Yeah.
Beat. It just sits there, waiting.
Right. It is exactly like owning a massive supercomputer, but you only use it to calculate tips at a restaurant.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, our source material is a guide called Unlocking Claude, 12 Strategies for Advanced AI Mastery.
Our mission today is quite simple, really. We are exploring the massive gap between average AI results and true mastery.
We are walking through 12 specific, non-technical strategies. You can take these and use them immediately.
Yeah, this is not about learning to write code. It is fundamentally about learning to ask better questions.
I have to make a vulnerable admission early on. Even with all these powerful tools, I still wrestle with the blank page myself.
Oh, it is incredibly intimidating. That blank prompt box feels just like a blank piece of paper.
It really does. People just type a generic, open-ended question.
Right, and they get a highly generic, predictable answer. Then they wonder why the technology feels overhyped.
So let us unpack this. The first concept is the smartest way to make a better decision. When we naturally form ideas, we immediately seek confirmation bias. We just want the AI to tell us we are brilliant.
Exactly. The underlying models are designed to be agreeable. If you ask if your idea is good, it will almost always say yes.
It just wants to please you.
Yeah, so you have to forcefully break it out of that loop. You tell it to actively argue against a specific live decision you are making.
You literally prompt it to build the strongest possible case against you. You ask for named failure modes.
You want the exact breaking points of your logic. You even ask for the first objection a smart, cynical person would raise.
And the entire output changes.
Yeah.
It stops being a cheerleader.
It does not just say your plan might be difficult. It explains exactly how the process breaks down.
It is like having a brilliant, ruthless debate partner. One who does not care about your ego at all. Does this work better for hypothetical or real decisions?
You absolutely have to use real decisions. The more specific and painful your situation is, the more useful the pushback becomes.
So real decisions give us the exact pushback we need.
Right. And that leads directly into our next concept. Interview yourself before you write.
This goes right back to my blank page problem. You sit down to write a proposal, you type a paragraph, and it just falls completely flat.
We usually think we need to heavily rewrite it. We blame our vocabulary. But the real problem is not bad writing.
It is a fundamental lack of clarity.
Yeah, we start typing before our thoughts are fully formed. The elegant fix here is the interview prompt.
So before you write a single word, you tell the AI to ask you questions.
You explicitly instruct it to ask 6 to 10 focused questions. It needs to fully understand your end goal.
Say I am writing a LinkedIn product launch post. I do not ask it to write the post. I ask it to interview me.
Right. It might ask who you are specifically trying to reach. It asks what makes this launch actually different.
Right. And it might ask what is genuinely surprising about the product.
These questions gracefully expose the gap between what you think you know and what you can actually explain.
It forces you to articulate the core value. Does this extra step actually save time in the end?
It saves hours of frustration. Once you actually answer those targeted questions, the structure becomes perfectly clear.
Right. Forcing clarity first practically writes the draft for you.
Which naturally brings us to the next structural step. Build a real decision framework.
Once your thoughts are clear, you need to structure complex, multi-variable problems. Cognitive overload is a real human limitation.
We can only hold a few variables in our head at once. So you prompt the AI to build a matrix for a live decision.
Maybe you are deciding between building an internal tool versus hiring an external developer. You need clear criteria.
It builds a highly practical matrix. It evaluates cost, development speed, and data security. Each option is objectively scored.
It feels like stacking Lego blocks of data. You build a very sturdy, logical foundation before you act.
But there's a crucial instruction you add to this prompt. You explicitly ask it to flag the question I am probably not asking.
Why is that unasked question at the bottom so valuable?
Because it completely shatters your limited mental model. It introduces external variables your human brain completely ignored.
It perfectly exposes our hidden blind spots before we commit.
Yeah. So we have built a sturdy logical foundation, but how will the real world receive it? That is our next strategy.
Simulate the exact reader you are writing for. Most people just copy their text and ask the AI, is this good?
That is a fundamentally meaningless question. Quality means absolutely nothing without knowing exactly who it is good for.
Exactly. You have to ask it to step into the mindset of a highly specific reader.
Like a busy CFO, one who is reviewing 50 pitch decks this week and only has a $10 million budget.
You literally tell it to point out exactly where it loses their attention. Where do they roll their eyes?
It simulates their lived experience. It adopts their low patience level. A tired parent reads very differently than a cynical journalist.
Does the level of reader detail change the feedback?
Dramatically. A generic CFO persona gives you generic business advice, but a skeptical CFO will tear your proposal apart in highly useful ways.
Exactly. Highly specific reader details generate highly specific critiques.
Now, if your audience is that specific, your voice needs to be completely authentic. That is our next vital strategy.
Make every output sound exactly like you. Generic AI prose is incredibly obvious and alienating.
We all know the AI tell by now. Words like delve or tapestry. To fix this, you use the projects feature.
You paste 5 to 10 samples of your own writing. Past emails, articles, Twitter threads. You instruct it to study those samples deeply.
You tell it to match your exact sentence rhythm, match your natural word choice, replicate how you uniquely structure arguments.
Whoa. 2-sec silence. Imagine it capturing your exact cadence perfectly across a billion queries. That is genuinely fascinating.
It is like cloning your creative fingerprint. It changes your entire workflow. You finally stop spending 20 minutes editing every output.
Does this feature require a paid upgrade to use?
No, the basic project functionality is actually free. The paid tiers simply handle larger amounts of stored reference content.
Got it. Free users can create up to 5 projects.
Once your unique voice is locked in, you need to scale it. Turn one piece of content into 3 distinct formats.
Think about the friction of context switching. It is exhausting. Here, you take one source text. You prompt 3 different versions simultaneously.
You ask for a deep technical breakdown, an executive summary, and a 3-bullet Slack update.
This shifts the bottleneck completely. It is no longer a writing problem. It becomes a workflow solution.
You generate 3 perfectly targeted versions in under 2 minutes. You can even ask it which version works best for LinkedIn.
Can it explain its reasoning for the LinkedIn format?
It absolutely can. It breaks down the exact psychological hooks and formatting rules that perform best for that specific network.
Yeah, it gives you the logic to make future calls.
Mid-roll sponsor read.
And we are back. Moving into our next major concept. Get the key points from any long document fast.
We have successfully scaled our output. But what about scaling the massive amounts of incoming information we receive daily?
We all have that folder of doom. You upload long PDFs, dense contracts, academic research papers. You prompt for a 400-word summary.
You ask for 5 key findings and 3 specific actions.
But I have to push back here. What about the real risk of just skimming? Are we completely losing the nuance of deep reading?
It is a very fair concern. But this is not about replacing deep reading for your most vital documents.
It is about actually utilizing the information you otherwise would never read at all.
Exactly. Those PDFs are just sitting dormant in your downloads folder.
That makes a lot of sense. And there's an extra brilliant instruction here. You ask it to specifically flag any contradictions to your current beliefs.
Right. And that is where the magic happens. Most human summaries smooth over the interesting friction. This prompt forces the anomalies right to the surface.
Why specifically ask for contradictions in the text?
Because human confirmation bias naturally makes us ignore contradictory data. The AI simply does not have that cognitive blind spot.
Those contradictions surface the hidden details that actually change decisions.
From dense text documents, we move logically into dense numerical data, analyze any spreadsheet without writing code.
This is a massive leap for non-technical people. Many of us are secretly terrified of raw data. We upload CSV files.
Right.
Just to clarify, CSV basically means a standard plain text spreadsheet file.
Exactly. It could be monthly sales reports or CRM data.
Mm-hmm.
You ask the AI to find subtle patterns explaining why a metric changed last quarter.
You ask it to break the raw data down by customer segment. It clearly shows you which specific groups are behaving differently.
The AI handles all the technical heavy lifting in the background.
So I don't need to know Python or SQL.
Not a single line. It actually writes the necessary code, runs it internally, and generates clear comparison tables you can read instantly.
None at all. You just describe what you want and found.
No. With your data analyzed, you build a strategy. But will that pristine strategy survive brutal contact with reality?
That is our next vital check. How to test your strategy before it fails. This is the pre-mortem prompt.
It requires putting your ego aside entirely. You tell the AI it is a sharp, experienced operator who has watched 30 teams try this exact plan and fail.
You ask for the specific failure sequence at month 6. Month 6 is critical.
That is usually when the initial enthusiasm completely fades and deep structural flaws appear. You ask for the most likely catastrophic mistake.
It is exactly like having a crystal ball that only shows worst-case scenarios. The genuine discomfort of reading it is exactly the point.
You also ask it for one practical, suggested fix.
Is it common for teams to skip this step?
Incredibly common. Facing the fatal flaws in the project you just poured your absolute soul into is deeply painful.
Right, because imagining your own failure is naturally really uncomfortable.
Our next strategy takes the stress testing into human interactions. Practice before you show up.
A brilliant strategy is ultimately executed through human conversations. And some of those conversations are going to be incredibly difficult.
We are talking about role-playing hard meetings. An unhappy client threatening to leave. A deeply skeptical board member.
You explicitly prompt the AI to push back hard and absolutely not let you off easy.
It authentically simulates the interpersonal pressure. You will stumble, you will feel a slight panic.
And then you will find your way through the complex argument. We are using a machine completely lacking all emotion to prepare ourselves for heavy emotional burdens.
It acts as a low-stakes emotional sandbox. You figure out your stance safely before the real stakes apply.
Does this digital practice actually translate to real-world calmness?
It really does. Your brain actively processes the initial biological panic response during the text simulation. This keeps your actual heart rate steady later.
Yeah, getting pushed into corners early removes the real-world anxiety.
So you survive the hard meeting, but how do you track sprawling, complex work over weeks without starting from zero every time?
Keep your work consistent across every session. The amnesia of standard chatbots is so frustrating.
To fix this, you create a running brief document inside a project. At the end of every single work session, you tell the AI to update the core decisions.
It meticulously builds a shared, evolving memory. This heavily relies on utilizing the context window effectively as the project scales. Context window basically means the AI's short-term memory capacity.
Precisely. The AI retains the entire updated brief. You finally stop re-explaining the project parameters every single morning.
Can it hold enough information for a long-term project?
Yes. The capacity on modern models is genuinely massive. It handles incredibly dense amounts of background text simultaneously without losing the thread.
Wow, a 208K window equals a 500-page book of memory.
Which brings us to our final, overarching strategy. Build the framework, not just the answer.
This is the ultimate meta tip for completely transforming how you work. You move from simply solving one isolated problem to solving all future versions of that problem.
Instead of asking if one specific new partnership makes sense today, you ask it to build a repeatable framework.
You ask for detailed checklists. You ask for objective scoring rubrics. You demand the 5 core questions you absolutely must ask every single time.
Can a team use this framework without needing Claude?
Exactly. You build the system once and use it forever. The AI merely built the conceptual tool. Your human operators apply that objective rubric in the messy real world.
Let us zoom out and recap the big ideas we covered today. The core thesis across all 12 of these strategies is quite simple.
The AI is only as powerful as the specific context you provide. A longer, highly detailed prompt dramatically changes the quality of the output.
You move from asking basic search engine questions to actively directing a highly capable assistant. And it is important to note that all of this works on the free plan.
Role simulation, complex document parsing, deep data analysis, no coding is needed at all.
The Pro plan does offer a significantly larger memory capacity for $20 a month, but these fundamental strategies are universally accessible right now.
Knowledge is only truly valuable when it is deeply understood and practically applied, which naturally brings us to our call to action for you.
Do not just save this deep dive for later. Pick one specific tip today. Ideally, try tip number 2, the interview prompt.
Try it on a real frustrating project right now. Have the AI actively ask you questions before you write a single word. Watch how it beautifully forces clarity out of chaos.
It really works.
I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. Beat. If we can effectively teach an AI to perfectly simulate a ruthless skeptic, an entire target audience, and even our own authentic writing voice, at what specific point does it stop being just a helpful tool we use and start becoming a true mirror of our own human thinking process?